All right, guys, this is the second part in the series of exiting your business. This is something that I'm very, very excited about. This happened to us. This episode coming up is how to exit. We reveal how we went about finding a buyer and the pros and cons and the things that we kind of like deliberated and we went back and forth with. And we figured out how we went about doing it. So I'm not going to ruin what happened. So go ahead and listen to the podcast. But remember, this is a second part in a series of episodes about exiting. Hey guys, Andrew Erickson here. We are back in our series on exiting your private label business. The last episode, we talked about why would you consider selling your business? And this episode, we're going to talk about how. How do you find buyers and how do you go through the whole exit process? And I'm joined again by my longtime business partner, Mike Yeh.
Hey guys, glad to be back again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And I'm glad that you're here with us. If you guys want to hear more with Mike, the last episode on why exiting, you can make sure to listen to that one. But also, Mike had a full episode with us on episode 46, how to organize $1 million team. So you can listen to that if you want to learn more. But now we're going to talk about how. Okay, so you've now have been convinced. You listened to the last episode and the why to sell a business. You're like, yep, okay, I'm ready. Let's do it. This is the how. So let's say most of the people in our audience are 6-figure and 7-figure Amazon sellers. Okay, so and most of them are solo or small team kind of people, right? And so now let's say you're going to market and you have this business that's making $100,000 profit per year. Mike, how would someone go about trying to get some stranger to buy that from them?
Well, I'll say, us being brand new to the prospect of exiting, we did have a little help in the sense that we didn't do it alone, without speaking with brokers at a minimum. I think once you're a little more experienced in this realm and you start networking and making connections, it's certainly feasible to do this outside of the brokerage world and maybe save yourself a bit on the commission. But I would say we definitely heavily leaned on just talking to different brokerages. I mean, that's kind of how we dived into this whole thing. I think we started talking about really, selling towards end of last year, right? And I know that you had a goal of getting a LOI, letter of intent, in first quarter of this year. And I remember thinking to myself, man, that's ambitious. Like, and at the time I didn't know a thing about. I mean, you know me, I'm very conservative. I like to take my time with things. I move very slowly in general, but very meticulously. And so the thought of basically going through this whole process within a couple months, I thought was terrifying. But, we ended up basically just setting up a lot of calls with different brokerages and potential buyers. And I think, through those discussions, it was not only a discussion about selling the business, but it was really almost like a training session. I mean, there was a lot of educational aspect of those calls where I feel like both you and I learned a ton about the process of selling the business. So I would say personally, if it's your first go around, your first rodeo with this, I think that a brokerage is probably the safest way to go about it because you do get the, necessary guidance that you need if you're brand new to this stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to touch back on that thing about planning for this exit, this is definitely something that we've been talking about for a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike. So it's the end of Q1 2020 right now, and we had been working on this exit and kind of like planning, so like soft planning at least, but at least considering it since the beginning of 2020. Yeah, we've been soft planning it since the beginning of 2020. So why don't you tell us a little bit of the things that we did to get ready for this exit?
Sure. I think you've said it's currently the beginning of or end of Q1 2020. I think what you meant is 2021, right?
Yes.
Currently. Okay. All right. Just making sure we're on the same page there. Yeah. So absolutely. So we've been talking about exiting for a while now, but haven't really done anything actionable on it until the past few months. But over the course of the past year, I'd say that we kind of started looking at the business more from an exit perspective, in that we started kind of picking through it, analyzing it, and assessing it from that exit perspective, looking for areas that we could optimize, that we kind of knew in the back of our minds that there were, little pockets here and there that could use a little extra work, but we actually started doing something about it. And the other thing I'd mention is that, without an incredible accounting and bookkeeping team, I think we would have struggled much more with this whole process. Having had our books all perfectly in order leading up to this process has really helped a lot. And so we can thank our accounting and bookkeeping team for that. We let them know well in advance that this was on our minds and that, we had a target of an exit in early 2021. And so they were able to basically assist in, pulling out information as we needed it, specifically because we kind of went down this route of where we started the new business and we were more or less operating it under the same corporate structure as the structure that holds the brands that we're trying to sell. And so, once we started those exit discussions, we had those conversations with our bookkeeping team and ultimately decided that we were going to split that stuff all apart. That definitely was not something that happened overnight. That took quite a bit of extra work on their part, but they were, more than happy and willing to support us on that front. So very appreciative of that. But other than that, though, I feel like for the most part, we just continued running the business how we normally would. And, that's something that the brokers have advised us to do is just, all the way leading up till the day you actually close, just keep on running the business the way you're supposed to or that you would have otherwise if you weren't going to sell. And I think that's important to note simply because, people want to buy these businesses because you've been running them successfully. They don't want you to suddenly change things, at the last minute, right before the sale. So while you can do things to prep to make the sale part easier, I think, for the most part, as long as you have your books in order, just keep on doing what you're doing. What do you think? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, and just to give you guys a reference back to our accounting team, it's junglebooks.net. And if you want to hear more from our accountant, he actually came on episode 45 and episode 49. So the Chakra Yendapali is the name of the head accountant there, and then junglebooks.net is the company there. But that was the thing, is that we talked to him a lot about like, well, what does this look like? How should we do our books differently? And we want to keep everything extremely transparent and very open. And so when the buyer comes in, they have this clean, good set of books that they can really trust. And we tried to like not hide anything and really, really, it's all beautifully laid out on this like beautiful little plate, and they can come over and it's very appetizing for them to pick up. One thing we did do, though, is try to cut our expenses pretty dramatically. Not dramatically, but like try to really take out these little tiny things, cut them out. There's this thing called the 5X rule. Okay, if you're taking notes at home, the 5X rule. The 5X rule is every dollar you save, you're actually saving 5. Why? Well, you save it on the first time, right? The first dollar you saved it. So you saved at least a 1X, right? But you also get a 4X multiple on that $1 savings, right? So you get $4 more on top of that first one. So for example, that software that you use, that you signed up for, that's $30 a month that you don't really use, but it's kind of there and you kind of want to keep it, but it might be okay to keep. I don't know, whatever, right? For me, honestly, we had so many of those softwares. We were like over $1,000 a month in software as services, which I don't know, maybe it's a lot, maybe a little bit, I don't know, but felt like kind of a lot. And so if you go in, and I know this sounds kind of dumb, but like cutting that software out, it takes a long time to do that. And I'm kind of like, it's $20. I don't really want to spend an hour saving $20, But do that math, $20 times 12 months, that's $240. Times 5 is over $1,000, right? It's 5. Wow, what is that? A lot. 1,000, 1,300 or something. I don't know. Whatever. Someone with a calculator can figure it out. But $1,200, $1,500 for canceling one $20 service. So it went through, and once I felt that, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not saving $20. Yeah. I'm saving $1,000. Now all of a sudden, like I get excited about like cutting these, like, cutting those 12 services out. And then hopefully that added something to our bottom line when we go to exit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just thought of one other thing that we did for prep, and this was largely driven by you, is speaking to people that have sold their businesses before. I thought that was tremendously helpful, getting that insight from people that have been through, this process and could share their own personal experiences, what to expect, any gotchas and pitfalls to be wary of, and just, starting to get educated in this process before even talking to the first broker, just so that, I believe that these brokers have the best intentions, but, it's always good to do your own due diligence and, at least have some semblance of knowledge in the processes before you go straight to a broker and just start, talking about listing with them. So I think that's another little piece of advice that I could share.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I love going to events and I love masterminds and stuff because you talk to other people who've gone through these things and they've made mistakes. As many of you guys know, I am one of the coaches inside the Titan Network, and we talk about exiting all the time in there. And in fact, actually, we got a few friends inside of there who gave us, or I guess people inside the network who have sold businesses who then connected us to private buyers who were looking to do an off-market sale, which we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, if you are interested in that, there is a link in the show notes to look into the Titan Network if you want more people around you to discuss these things with. So let's go. Actually, that's a good segue. Let's go ahead and jump into it, and let's discuss a little bit about these private buyers that we got connected to. So they were just basically friends of friends. They were. I told the universe, I told the mastermind, told the groups of people I know that I'm looking to sell, and they said, let me connect you with some people who are looking to buy. And so why don't you tell us a little bit, Mike, about those private buyers that we talked to?
Yeah, sure. So I know that you kind of initiated that whole side of things, and you pinged me and you're like, "Hey, Mike, what do you think about talking to private buyers?" And I'll admit I was a little wary because being our first exit, I kind of wanted a bit of that hand holding from the brokers, but figured it couldn't hurt. It's not like we were committing to actually selling necessarily. And I think you mentioned that it would be a good way of at least practicing, and almost like a practice interview, if you will. Although we did, legitimately consider selling to the private buyers if the offer looked good. So I thought that the discussions with the private buyers were very representative of what we'll see in terms of discussions with buyers through the brokers. I mean, these buyers, these private buyers that we're talking about, from our understanding, they are notified when the brokers list a new business. So they are just like all the other buyers that are in the pool of who the brokers advertise to. And so I feel like we got a little bit of a glimpse into the future by talking to them. And they were great discussions. I think they jogged our minds on a lot of things that we needed to consider. And they, dug through all of our books. And quite frankly, I was impressed by how quickly they were able to churn through all the data. And I mean, that was a quick turnaround. They just said, do you mind linking up your Seller Central account to basically a third party read only access through API to pull down your data. So we did that. And then within a couple of days, they had gone through, I think they basically understood our business almost as well as we did over the course of a couple of days, which to me was mind boggling. And then to be able to offer what I thought was, a pretty competitive offer from them, to be able to back that up with an offer of, the magnitude that they did really says something. And so, I thought it was a great experience. Ultimately, we decided it wasn't the best route for us, but I would absolutely consider private buyers in the future. I think just for this particular sale, it wasn't a great fit. And, defaulting back to the fact that this is our first sale and we kind of want to make sure that there is someone to some degree, looking after us, which would be the brokers in this case. But yeah, I would advise, talking to as many private buyers as you have time or energy for.
Yeah, and I completely agree that it was a really good experience, and it was a good offer. And I was like, oh, these people have money, and they wrote us. They gave us a legitimate offer with a bank account to support it, and I was like, this is real. Okay, all right. But ultimately, I
think we had a little mini celebration on that. We were like, hey, this is the first time that we officially have someone saying, hey, I'll give you money for your business. Like, that was exciting. I know that we had a little a little song and dance between the two of us, distanced and remote from each other. But I don't know. It made my night. It made my weekend knowing that our business had some dollar value assigned to it, and that it was a decent chunk of change. So sorry.
Yeah, I remember actually. That's a good story. I remember that the offer came in on Friday. And you and I think I was going to a friend's house. It was outside. We're still during quarantine, so it's outside with a small group of people. Okay, but it was going to a friend's house. The offer came in, and we were discussing it, and we're like, "Well, it's not technically at market price, but the offset with the broker, blah blah blah." And both you and I were like, "Well, you know what? I think you were gonna go tuck your kids into bed or something, or make dinner for your kids." And I had just gotten to my friend's house. I was like, you know what, Mike, instead of analyzing this deal, let's just accept, it's Friday night. Let's accept we got an offer. It's super cool. Someone likes us enough that they would consider giving us money for something. Let's just celebrate. And we'll do a virtual toast. So yeah. And then on Monday, we went through and kind of analyzed the deal and stuff. So yeah, it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So we really, the private offer was a little bit under what we've been told, at least, is market value. So brokers do take roughly 10% of the sale, which it's a big chunk. I mean, it's 5-figure, 6-figure chunk that they're taking, right? And so, that there is that advantage that you don't have to pay that brokerage fee. But ultimately, we kind of thought that we thought that they could actually make more than their fee would cost. And the big thing, too, is we've never done this before. And I kind of don't want to play this negotiation game with people who have done this before a lot of times when I've never done it. So if I was a real estate agent and I was looking to sell my home, I would consider selling my home because I'm a real estate agent who has sold many homes, right? But if this is my first home that I've ever bought, or I mean, my first one I'm ever selling, I guess. I mean, I built it built this house with my own hands and I'm looking to sell it. I've never sold a house before. I really need someone to kind of like sit here and hold my hand and make sure I'm doing it right. Will I get a higher return? Probably. But ultimately, it's kind of like a emotional, I just feel more comfortable having someone there to make sure I'm not really screwing this thing up.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think that, we discussed the fact that because the private buyer offer was slightly on the lower side of things, like even if you went to a brokerage and you deducted the commission from that sale, even if you end up at that same amount that the private buyers were offering, at least you had the opportunity to have had your business seen by many other potential buyers. And so the worst that could happen with going with the brokers is that you basically, or at least what we think would happen, is that we would basically end up with somewhere around, in the ballpark of what the private buyers are offering anyway. The upside of it is potentially with that much larger pool of buyers out there, you can end up with, a much higher offer. So I think had the private buyers offer been higher, it would have been, we would have much more strongly considered it, but it was just at that kind of cutoff threshold where it really didn't make sense to just go straight with them without opening it up to a bigger pool of buyers.
Yeah, and it probably wasn't a perfect fit. That's why the valuation was a little bit below market. Because I know they mentioned they like air shipping things. They like things that can sell well on social media, which makes sense. I mean, that's a definitely a good strategy to sell tiny little things that you can do kind of a click, stop the scroll, click, impulse buy, click on social media. That's a great strategy. Our products do not fit that, though, unfortunately. I wish they did. I've tried. The stop the scroll and impulse buy doesn't work very well. Plus, we have to ship everything because our stuff's just bulky enough. It just wasn't a great fit. So ultimately, we thought we'd go with the brokers. So now, Mike, let's jump into evaluating every broker.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we talked to a lot of people, and we're going to give rough numbers, and we're going to give some small insight. That being said, this is just two dudes' evaluations of these businesses. Every person we talked to was really legit. I was very impressed with every broker, every buyer. Everyone's very professional. Everyone most of them have their own little niche that they're in. This company services this one well, this one services that one well. And so if we say anything disparaging, it's not really disparaging. It's just that this is our interpretation of it. And also, these numbers that we were quoted, these things change very quickly. In fact, we even started talking to people kind of the end of Q3, beginning of Q4 of 2020. And in that time, that 6 months that we've talked to them, their numbers have changed just because the market's changed that quickly. So don't quote us too much on these. We just want to give rough numbers so you can kind of get an idea of what kind of stuff you would be looking at if you were looking to list with a broker soon. Hey guys, I want to interrupt the episode for just a few seconds for you. Today's episode is brought to us by our sponsor, Helium 10. Helium 10 is one of my favorite tools. I use it literally every single day. Actually, I don't tell people I use this tool. I tell people I live and breathe this tool. So with Helium 10, I'm going to do a quick little demo here. I've actually loaded up a real page. We're going to talk about how to find our launch keywords for a metal taco holder. Kind of a fun project. So here I am loading up X-Ray, which gives us like sales data on all these different products. I'm going to go through here and find a few of the products that make sense. They're all kind of like relevant things. These are all like metal taco holders, right? I'm going to exclude the plastic ones. I'm going to exclude the weird dinosaur ones and stuff. I'm just going to grab a few metal ones. And I think I like to grab 10, but like 5 to 10 works as long as you have a good number of products here to kind of see the algorithm, right? We're all thinking about the algorithm. Now, when we hit that, we can load up Cerebro. So here's Cerebro loading. And boom, we have our keywords. We have our keywords that came with that are our top ranked keywords for these products. So you can see here what the main image looks like, and we can see here a list of all these keywords. We have thousands and thousands of keywords that are going to be things that we're ranking for. We want to have our best launch keywords though, and those launch keywords are, I like to use 1,000 to 5,000 search volume. And also, here's a big one. This is a killer one. We want ranking competitors. Who are our main competitors and where are they ranking? I put 5 to 10. I like to kind of see that the top, like in this case, we have 8. So you're going to have 6 or 7 ranking competitors. So here I'm filtering by search volume, and we want to find the top search products. And we also want to see how many of them our competitors ranking for. Where our competitors are ranking is where we should be launching to. If these products look just like ours, then people who search these things are looking for products just like ours, right? So here we have 7 ranking competitors. We have thousands of searches per month. And these products are going to be, now use a human part and think which ones make the most sense for my product. And in this case, I chose these 3, and I think these are the best keywords that we should launch to. That is a quick little 1-minute tutorial about how we use Helium 10 to pick our launch keywords. So this tutorial, I hope you figured out, hope you got some value from this. If you want to use this tool yourself, use ZonCon 10 for 10% off for the rest of your life. I have used Helium 10 for, 5 years, 6 years, so 10% for life. I'll probably use it for the next 5 or 10 years, right? So go ahead and go to helium10.com and use that discount code ZonCon10. That's ZONCON 10 for 10% off for the rest of your life. So why don't you take it away, Mike?
Well, I think we should. So we talked to a couple traditional brokers in the sense that they're, I don't know how to describe it any other way. They list your business and then they sell it. We also talked to, I'm not sure what would Thrasio fall under? They're buying the business, right?
They're a large aggregator.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So we talked to them as an aggregator, and then we also talked to folks that were pursuing an agglomerate model. So I guess I'm looking at, our list of things or folks that we talked to here. Does it make sense to start in the order that we talked to them, which I believe would be, we started with the agglomerate model, right?
Why don't we go? Yeah, you know what? Let's go roughly in order of our not like least favorite to most favorite. So and the list I have here, maybe we can kind of go reverse order.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And so I was, the agglomerate model, I think that was, largely your driving of that effort. So, maybe you want to take that one and speak a little bit more to that.
Sure. Yeah. So agglomerate could have its own podcast for sure. Probably could have its own podcast series about how it works. So it's this interesting idea. There is this book called Agglomerate, not conglomerate with a C. It's agglomerate with an A at the beginning, an AG, agglomerate. And it's this idea that you can take multiple businesses and you just mush them together, and you basically, instead of having a conglomerate that buys up these companies and then puts them underneath an umbrella company, it's almost like instead of having like a king, you have like a sort of a council of business owners. And let's say, for example, you have 5 brands come together. Each one's doing $5 million a year in revenue and doing a million in EBITDA, which is a fancy word for just saying profit. EBITDA is just a fancy word for profit. In fact, actually, Mike, look, I have my
yes.
for the audio guys, I have an EBITDA coffee mug that Mike got me for Christmas. Was it Christmas or something? I don't know. And what does it say on it?
Well, it's EBITDA, but it's got a C on the end of it. So I don't know how to pronounce that. Is that EBITDAC, I guess?
EBITDA, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But so EBITDA normally stands for, let me see if I get this right, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and I don't know what the A is.
Amortization.
Okay, amortization. Okay.
Amortization. Yeah.
And given the current circumstances that the world is in, I wanted to get you something that I thought was clever, and like this just popped out to me. The C in this, I know this isn't really a joking matter, but it's it stands for coronavirus, because I mean I think basically every business out there this past year was impacted by coronavirus to some degree, right? Whether positive or negatively. And yeah, it is a very serious situation. We don't mean to, poke fun at it, but I wanted, to bring some humor into, what would otherwise be a very dark and kind of a gloomy period in our lives, especially with our business as well. We did see a lot of very, very rough impacts that we had to deal with in terms of logistics, and it did, bump our expenses up by quite a bit. And so, how do we get on this topic? But basically, that mug was, I'm hoping that you'll hold on to that, and that a few years from now, we'll be able to look back on it and remember, and basically joke about like, hey, remember when we had that one year where trying to ship things took 3 times as long and 5 times as expensive, and it felt like our whole world was falling apart. But hey, you know what, we survived it, and we came out the other end. And not only that, we ended up selling the business. That's really where that came from. So
Yeah. So the coffee mug says EBITDA instead of EBITDA, right? And so it's earnings after everything and coronavirus. So it's a funny little joke. So, but where were we? We lost track here, and that was a big tangent. Agglomerate model. So it's earnings, your EBITDA, which is a fancy word for profit. You take a few business owners and you basically partner together, put all of your P&Ls together. So let's say each one's doing 5 million revenue, $1 million EBITDA or profit. Then you take those five, you would then combine them together in a $25 million revenue and $5 million profit company. And then a business that size can actually IPO or do like a stock exchange thing. And you can get a much higher multiple if you do that kind of deal, right? And so that kind of deal, if you can manage it, it's very tricky, it's very complicated, and it's very there's a lot of moving parts to it. You can see a 5 or 10x multiple on your profit. So that's really the highest profit you could possibly get that I've ever seen in the market, is that 10x there. And so that's an interesting idea. It just didn't fit us very well. I don't quite understand the model perfectly, and also it doesn't give you quick cash. We're not looking for quick cash necessarily, but the idea is that you would keep running the company for a long time. There's not really a clear way to exit from that weird exit. It's like an IPO exit. There's not really a way to like pull out of that. So that was kind of like an idea that we entertained, but we did not really pursue too far.
Yeah, I think it had a bit of a longer runway than we were really looking for, because I think as we mentioned in the last discussion on why exit, where we're really looking to free up some time. And so the thought of just continuing to run the business, it didn't really fit our goals too well there. But I mean, it sounds like a great opportunity for someone that might be interested in going down that path. So,
yep. Yeah, I'll have to bring on my friend who's all about this agglomerate model, and he can explain it better than I can. Yes, the next one, Thrasio. Why don't you talk about our conversations we had with Thrasio? Oh, and by the way, Thrasio was on the podcast as well. It was episode 59, Thrasio. This is who is going to give you $1 million for your business. So episode 59 if you want to learn more. But Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about that conversation we had with them?
Sure. I thought we had a great conversation with them, and it was very clear that they understand the ins and outs of the business really, really well. My takeaway from it, though, was at the end of the day, like they buy your business, and based on our discussions with them, it seemed like it might have been at a slightly lesser than market value, or what we would have considered market value. But the plus side of it, the beneficial side of it, is that it seems like a very smooth and easy transaction, because they're just buying your business. You're basically talking to a buyer. The thing I wasn't too crazy about it, though, was like that a lot of their upside was really on doing was it an earnout, right? Was where you saw a lot of the actual return for selling your business. And it's while there's nothing particularly wrong with that. I mean, we're very confident in our business doing well and performing well, especially under the guidance of or under the control of a larger aggregator like Thrasio. We just kind of wanted to cut ties with this business. We're ready to start the next chapter, and having those dangling strings, I guess, from this business is not really what we had in mind. And I'll say that a lot of where a lot of our thinking for the entire exit of the business was really just going down the path of a traditional exit, traditional brokerage, where you're just selling to a buyer through a brokerage. So again, I think that this would have been a perfectly good path to go for a lot of people. We just the main thing that steered us away from it is kind of like the strings attached reasoning, and us not really wanting to have a whole lot of strings attached with the sale of the business.
Yeah, and when they did the earnout part, that's great. I mean, there's that upside, which is pretty fantastic. But a big reason for selling the business is to mitigate our risk, and having a huge chunk of that tied to the performance that someone else has running our business. That's not risky, right? Like we I don't want to be too reliant on someone else running the business well, and then that being a large chunk of our return, right? So it just didn't really fit well for us. One thing I did like about them though is that they did so they had that upside, which is pretty awesome. They also have a really simple way of evaluating your business. They look at your revenue, or your gross revenue, your top line, right? Total sales. And they just subtract out your landed cost, your Amazon fees, and then your advertising fees, and then 4% for overhead. So it's a really simple model to figure out like what your profit or what your valuation is at that point. So that's like that's a big pro right there. Plus there's also no brokerage commission because they are the buyer. There's no brokerage. So that's there's a lot of great things. Also, they only do FBA. So if you're not an FBA business, you're doing any type of influencer, anything, or brick and mortar, they don't really do that, to my understanding. So those are all things to consider with them. Okay, now we're going to get into traditional brokerages. Why don't you tell us about Quiet Light, Mike?
Sure. So Quiet Light is very much a traditional brokerage as far as I could tell from our discussions with them. And I believe at least my first contact with them, I don't know if it was your first contact with them, was at the Brand Accelerator Conference. Was that 2019? Man, it's been
that was September 2019.
That's wild. I can't believe it was that.
That was Scott Volker's conference in Dallas.
Yeah, and so that was at least my first interaction with any kind of broker for an e-commerce business. And I thought they were phenomenal. It was, great discussions with them. It was good learning how they do their general valuation of businesses, what makes a business more valuable than another. We did have a initial conversation for this current exit, Quiet Light. And, from our conversation with them, it seemed like they really knew what they were doing. But in general, it felt like they valued our business a little less than where we thought we were. And, I think that's really what it came down to is, I felt like we had to almost prove our valuation to them a little bit more than our discussions with the other brokers that more so saw the value of our business immediately. And the other thing is I feel like this is again just two guys talking to one representative from these brokerages. I'm sure that they're, you really can't go wrong with any of them. They all have great reputations, but the discussion we had with Quiet Light was very technical. And while I generally appreciate those types of discussions, me and we talk technical all day. And so it was almost like, I felt like we were just bringing in another person that was just part of our discussions. And it didn't really seem as much like we were talking to a brokerage, if that makes any sense. And so I for the sake of selling and exiting a business, I kind of was looking for, someone that could represent us in a selling manner a little bit more versus, the nerdy talk that you and I have on a day-to-day basis. So that was my impression of them. Again, think that they're a well-known brokerage in this space and that they have a lot to offer, but I just think it wasn't, the best fit for us.
Yeah. Also, they again, these are just small little pieces of observations, right? They didn't seem very automated. They just wanted our P&L, and they kind of just did a lot of email back and forths and stuff. And it wasn't, the process didn't seem quite as refined, I guess. But then again, we didn't use them. We don't know. Maybe their process is better, different than what we are perceiving. So we did not really pursue much with Quiet Light, but we did a very, very, very close second place brokerage here was Website Closers. And so I can say with Website Closers, they actually gave us a higher multiple than others were giving us, but they cheated a little bit because they were including our inventory cost in that multiple. So it's a little bit of a kind of a hand wavy way of getting that multiple, but overall, even including the inventory, they were giving us a really nice. They were promising us a lot, at least, and who knows what they would have actually delivered. And one thing that they were really big on, they do a lot of things. They can do basically any type of business sale, but one thing they specialize in quite a bit, at least what they're known for in the community, is an SBA loan, SBA sale. SBA is the Small Business Advantage or Association, something like that.
Administration, I think.
Administration. Okay.
Thought so.
Yeah. It's the government backed business loan thing. So it's kind of like if you got a home loan, it's like the FHA or Fannie Mae. It's like sort of a government backed / it's still a private bank doing it, but they specialize in that. And those loans are pretty cheap, but they are hard to get. You have to have special terms. You have to be a US based company. You have to show your profit has to be shown in a certain way. You have to have multiple years of profit. You have to show increasing revenue year over year. You have to do that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of little gotchas along the way, as well as the SBA just taking longer. It's not really a deal between two people. It's a deal between three people, one of them being a large bureaucracy. And so it just takes longer. And when we went through the evaluation, they told us we probably would not be SBA qualified because the way we did our taxes a couple of years ago. And so that kind of like deflated their advantage a little bit. But overall, we were really, really close to going with Website Closers. And I think I'm allowed to share this. Justin Dyson used Website Closers. And so he's in a couple of episodes back, and Justin Dyson, if you want to hear his story. So they're still very highly reputable in the community. We just ended up not going with them.
Yeah, it really was an 11th hour decision for us. I mean, we were on the fence for a while there, but ultimately, knowing that we wouldn't really qualify for what we hear is basically their bread and butter, their specialty with being able to, get SBA loans in the purchase. Yeah, I think that's kind of what steered us in another direction, but I can't say enough good things about them. I mean, their communication was phenomenal. Like any questions we had were immediately addressed. They were happy to hop on the phone to work through things. And I feel like we learned a ton from them just through those discussions. So, but ultimately, and I also want to clarify just to make sure that it's very clear, they do work with cash buyers, and they made that clear to us. We were very much, understanding that. It's just, I feel confident in saying that we would have gone with them had we been SBA qualified. But the fact that kind of fell through kind of steered us in a different direction. So,
for sure. So, Mike, tell us, who do we decide to sign with?
So ultimately, we signed with Empire Flippers.
Wait! Drum roll!
Yeah, so ultimately we went with Empire Flippers, and so they were neck and neck with Website Closers in our down select, but they are, from my understanding at least, known in the community as having a very large pool of cash buyers, and they also emphasize that those cash buyers are pre-vetted, as in needing to show proof of funds before they can even see the deals, so that that builds quite a bit of confidence there. And the Empire Flippers, Andrew, you're gonna make fun of me here because I know I did a lot of whining to you about how rough the process was and how many tasks they kept assigning us. But in retrospect, I'm glad they did that because it helped us really get into the weeds with a lot of part of the businesses. And so I'll elaborate on that a bit. Basically, Empire Flippers, their whole process is incredibly automated. It's a well-oiled machine, if you will. And you can tell that they've done this so many times and they've got it, down to a science. And so they do everything through an online dashboard where you can communicate with your representatives, and you can also see all the tasks that are outstanding. And basically, your dashboard is a list of tasks, and it's got guidance on how to do it. They do a lot of their tasks through Google Sheets, which you and I were already using on a daily basis. So it was good to it was very comfortable inputting data into their fields in those Google Sheets. And so it was basically a series of tasks. I guess there's almost different phases of it where you get your initial set of tasks, you finally get them all done, and you're cheering, and then you tell your advisor, or vetting advisor is what it was called. You're assigned a vetting advisor that's kind of helping you walk through the process. You tell them you're done, and they say, "Great, that looks good. All right, I've loaded your dashboard with the next set of tasks." And that's when you just close your laptop and go to bed. But
I found the whole Mike. I found the whole process very easy and simple. I just told you to do it, and that was easy for me.
Yeah, it was. And so the whole time I was kind of like, man, why doesn't this have to be done with the other brokers? And in retrospect, I'm understanding now a little bit better now that we're towards the finish line. I can understand why Empire Flippers does that. And my interpretation of it is that they want to rebuild all the data on their side of it as a second source of verification, more or less. And so what I've heard is that the numbers that Empire Flippers puts out there in terms of for their listing are very well respected, and buyers can come to the table being very confident in those numbers. And it makes sense because they go through this whole process of basically rebuilding your P&Ls. I mean, I recall from the get-go telling them, or Empire Flippers, hey, we have very meticulous P&Ls that we can share with you guys. Can I just hand those to you guys? And they're like, no, unfortunately not. We have to do things through our system. And at the time, I was kind of moaning and groaning, like, oh, this is all done already. Why do we have to do this? And it took me a little while to understand that the reason why is because they have their own methods of calculating things, and in order to make sure that they have an even playing field on their listings and to maintain that buyer confidence, they really do have to just rebuild everything from scratch. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's an excellent method of doing it. It was just that the whole process of getting through it was a bit time consuming. But when you're talking about exiting, you're talking big dollars, and so ultimately it was time well spent. And the process was definitely, as I mentioned, very impressive in terms of automation, and just you seeing that they're pulling data directly down from Amazon. All your sales figures and stuff like that are already pre-populated in there through an API, and then you go in and you fill in anything that they can't automatically pull in relating to your business operations, and just seeing the whole thing kind of churn and output data. I love that kind of stuff. I know you do too. And so it was very very fun working with a group of people that I would say work very much the same way that we do, and that we build these types of sheets for our own business. And they take a certain set of inputs and they spit out stuff that is very meaningful to us. That's 100% what Empire Flippers does. And so it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is why we went with Empire Flippers, was that basically that rebuilt P&L thing, also their reputation and their automation process. And now we did mention that we had our accountant helped us with our P&L, and so we did. It's still important to have your own books, but to also have someone else come through and have their own methodology of doing books for you, and then that kind of being like really close with how we did our own P&L, but not quite exactly the same. So there's a few things that are a little bit off, and kind of going through that, but it gives you high confidence when we do it one way, and then this other person comes in as a third party who's brokering the deal, but not necessarily in favor of you. They're just helping the deal go through. When they come through and they basically kind of verify or give their give a thumbs up on your books, it makes me feel a lot more confident. And especially what I really want is the buyer of the business to feel more confident in it. So we are in the eve of listing. So we are one business day away. So the next, it's Friday right now. The next day is Monday, which is when we list. And so, Mike, how are you feeling right now?
I'm incredibly anxious right now because we've gotten our preliminary evaluation from Empire Flippers. We've had our final discussions with them this morning, and we are quite literally right now waiting for the final valuation. I mean, it could come in literally right now. And we've already had a discussion on that this morning on where we should roughly land. And obviously that's just, the broker's valuation of the business. It's, ultimately it's going to come down to what a buyer's willing to pay for it. But it's exciting. I'm incredibly excited, but anxious at the same time because this is a big deal. So looking forward to receiving the valuation and truly crossing the finish line in terms of getting listed, and then entering the new territory of starting to field questions from buyers and anyone that's trying to like poke holes in our numbers. But I feel good knowing that we at least have the seal of approval from Empire Flippers, knowing that the numbers that we're going to the market with have been vetted through through their system that has been proven to be very legitimate. So feel good about the whole thing.
Yep.
Where's your mind at?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I just hit refresh on our email to see if it came in yet. It hasn't yet, but it should be any minute now, hopefully any hour. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to do this. We'll add the 7-figure exit to the resume. Hopefully, I think we will. Not done yet, but but that us going through the selling process, that is actually the next episode. So if you're loving this series, I would love it if you shared it with someone who is also considering selling or is in the active state of getting their business ready to sell. Share this episode. We don't ask, all the stuff we do is all for free. And so we just ask that you share this episode with one other person. We want to get the word out so that we can kind of all learn and grow together with these FBA private label businesses. And tune in for our next episode when we talk about the selling process. That's it, guys. Yes, we are excited about this exit. Again, this episode was recorded, 9-10 months ago. So it's funny kind of like listening to myself back in almost a year ago, thinking about this and getting ready for this. And now the next episode in the series is us actually talking about the proper, full, beautiful, amazing exit and how it went, and some of the amazing things that happened and some of the less than amazing things that happened. So it's mostly good, but make sure to tune in and find out some of the things that were kind of some of the best practices on what to do and what not to do when exiting your business. If you want to learn more about exiting your business, I would love to talk to you about this. I would love to get on a call and just chit chat about this all day. Let's have an Amazon conversation about doing that, about exiting. So if you want, please go to the website, zonconpodcast.com. Look at that. I even have a shirt that says it. zonconpodcast.com/exit. Fill out the form there, and I would love to chit chat with you.